All right, joining us now for more on this, Chris Wallace. He anchors Fox News Sunday. All right, Chris, a lot of palace intrigue in Washington, all over the White House, the Capitol Hill, this meeting with the FBI director last night. Everything's been leaking. That's a pretty tight meeting, though. What do you think we may or may not get out of it?
Well, I think at some point we're going to find out, and the two big questions that everybody has are, one, was there collusion between the Trump campaign? That, after all, is the source of this whole issue. Was there collusion between, when I say the Trump campaign, Trump world, I prefer to call it, any associate of the president during the campaign and Russian intelligence, collusion in terms of Russia's interference with our election? And then, of course, now we have the president's charges that the White House, either the president directly or through the Justice Department, wiretapped his phones at Trump Tower. I have to say, my going supposition is based on my interview last week on Fox News Sunday with Tom Cotton, who is a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and he said that there was no evidence of either. No evidence so far, and they've been briefed, of collusion between Trump world and the Russians. No evidence that there was any effort to get a FISA wiretap authorizing taping of Trump's phones in Trump Tower. So until we get new evidence that would indicate the opposite at this point, there's a lot of smoke, but no fire.
Well, it's interesting that we have a bipartisan letter now coming from Senators Graham and White House to the DOJ saying we want to see what there is with regard to applications, to warrants, to FISA orders on this alleged wiretapping. They've made a very direct bipartisan request. Do you think it'll bear them any fruit?
Well, at some point, members of the Intelligence Committee are certainly going to find that out. In fact, the Intelligence Committees routinely can get information about FISA warrants. The key thing here, and this is why some people are still scratching their head about the president's charge with regard to wiretapping of his phones, to get a wiretap, unless you're going to just do it illegally, and there sure is no evidence of that. Of course, if that happened, now we're back in Watergate. But assuming that this wasn't done illegally, the Justice Department would have to go to the FISA court, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, and they would have to present probable cause to get a judge to approve it, that either a crime was committed or someone, in this case Trump Tower, purportedly the president, since he was the one who says his phones were being tapped, was acting as a foreign agent. So, the White House is faced with two possibilities here. Either one, the president was just wrong when he accused President Obama of wiretapping him, or two, he was right, and if so, what's the evidence on which they got the court order to allow that? Neither one is a very good alternative.
Well, as you know, the FISA court rarely says no. Of more than 35,000 requests that have been publicly, that we've been able to document, then they've only said no like 12 times. So it's a much less of a standard than it would be, say, a criminal warrant. But, it could be a completely legit legal thing that happened. Someone went, an FBI agent went to the FISA court, said this is what we have. It was enough for them to, give some kind of FISA order or an access. It all could have been completely legal, but the same thing could be true that there was never any evidence that implicated anyone, as you said, in Trump world. So all of those things could be congruent.
Yeah, except you got to think to yourself, I mean, just as a practical matter, you say that the FISA court generally acts as a rubber stamp. If the Justice Department of Barack Obama were to go to the FISA court in the middle of the campaign and say they wanted to tap the Republican nominee for president, wouldn't you think that would get a lot of scrutiny, even by a rubber stamp FISA court? I just have to think that.
Allegedly, one of the reports was that they did try this in June. Again, none of this has been independently confirmed, and certainly not officially. But the story goes that they tried at least once in June, maybe a second time, and finally got a FISA order in October. So it sounds like there may have been multiple bites of the apple.
But Shannon, that's never been confirmed. We get this from very frankly, not reliable sources, and the people that have done most of the reporting that has turned out to be true on this case have not been able to confirm that. So I sure wouldn't want to go trafficking in that story that they went for a FISA warrant in June, got it, and then got one in October. That's never been confirmed by a credible source.
Yeah, we'll see. Reporting by the BBC and Heat Street and others. But again, we're waiting for some kind of official answers. And maybe the senators get them. Maybe the public doesn't right away. Maybe we do eventually. But by the way, thank you, Chris. And we'll see you on Sunday. We know no matter what breaks news between now and then, you're going to be prepared.
You bet.
I'm laying out the basics here. You put together in a very comprehensive way, and I give you a lot of credit for putting all this together. This isn't the right-wing conspiracy. This isn't conservative Sean Hannity, conservative Mark Levin. This is the New York Times. This is McClatchy. Explain.
And yet it's only conservatives who are concerned about what they're reading in liberal media outlets. Have you noticed that? The media is very confounded right now. They're very confused. They don't know whether to trash themselves, trash their colleagues, or what. Now, you asked a question. You said, what did Obama know? We know he knows this much. Everything you just read, he knew, because it's in the newspapers. That's pretty big. Number two, we know that if a FISA warrant was secured, it's very likely in his daily intelligence briefing or a call from the Attorney General or the Director of the FBI, the President would be given a heads up. There's nothing illegal about it, but he'd be given a heads up. Here's what else we know. There's all kinds of, based on these reports, investigative activities going on. You know, McClatchy reported the agencies involved, the FBI, CIA, National Security Agency, Justice Department, Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. I assume Obama knew something. I mean, unless he's Helen Keller. Now, let me make another point about this. That's a hell of a lot of agency resources. Those are a hell of a lot of investigators. The news reports, you mentioned the New York Times, January 20th. I just want to make sure CNN and MSNBC are aware of this.
They watch all the time, Mark. Nobody's watching them. Go ahead.
Wiretap data used in inquiry of Trump aides. I never said independent of news reports about the wiretap. Wiretap data used in inquiry of Trump aides. Well, didn't Mr. Clapper say there were no FISA orders issued? Can you play that tape for me so I can comment on that and pull this together?
I think we have that loaded, and because he said it on Meet the Press this weekend. But we'll get it in a second.
It's very profound.
Yeah, well, but we'll get to that in a second. Go ahead.
But let me comment on it. It's very, very important. It's very important because if Clapper says there was no FISA order, and he was very broad, and he was very definite, and he said, no, I don't remember this, and you'll play it later, then what the hell are we talking about? That means they didn't have enough information for probable cause to get a warrant in front of the FISA court. So what's the FBI, the CIA, the National Security Agency, the Justice Department, the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network investigating? What are these wiretaps that the New York Times is talking about? You know, I know they want to focus on Donald Trump and his tweet. I want to focus on America and the Constitution. The reason I got fed up with this last week is I'm a constitutional conservative. I look at this. If I'm reading these news reports, we have a runaway executive branch. I don't know who knows what. And as of today, the media don't appear to know who knows what, which is exactly why I've been calling for congressional investigations. The question is, why aren't CNN, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, and all the rest of them, why aren't they concerned about this?
Mark,
rather than mock the president and his tweet, pay attention to what your own reporters and other reporters are saying.
So what you say is really deep and profound here, and I want to put some emphasis on this, and that is that the news media reported the leaks, the news media reported the surveillance, they reported it repeatedly. This is the mainstream media. As far as I know, they've never retracted the story, and everybody knew about it. It was not something that was hidden. Now, in fact, Donald Trump mentions that, in fact, it happened, and somehow this is, oh, my gosh, this is outrageous. What do we, how do we definitively find out that, in fact, in June and again in October, there were attempts to surveil the then candidate of the opposition party by the current administration at the time, the Obama administration?
Well, two things need to happen one way or another. Number one, the FISA applications, which Clapper denies, by the way. He denies, and the follow-up was pathetic over there at NBC, but we'll get to that. The FISA applications should be released. That's number one. The warrant that was supposedly secured in October should be released. The other thing that needs to be done is these daily presidential briefings that the president received, that the intelligence agencies and law enforcement agencies coordinate on and prepare. The Intelligence Committee chairmen need to read them. And now we'll get to the bottom of this. Now, I find it very interesting. People are saying, well, let Trump release the damn FISA stuff. Can you imagine if he does that? He'd be accused of interfering with investigations, trying to intimidate the Justice Department. No. Let Congress finally step up and do its job. They have oversight committees. We pay these people to do their jobs. Now, get into those damn FISA applications. Look at the so-called warrant. Hold on now. Yeah. Look at the warrant that was released. Look at these daily briefings, and let's see what's in them.
All right, great one. We miss having you on. Stay right there. We're going to keep you while we got you. All right, more with the great one, Mark Levin, right after the break.